Welcome to Under the Fringe. We are your hosts, Andy Yablonsky and Julie Babin, two interior designers with almost 50 years of combined experience. And while we love design, our passion has really become helping the next generation of designers struggle less, earn more, and create more freedom in their lives. We offer a whole host of support options to help you create the structures you need to really thrive and grow. More to come on that at the end of the show.
Hi, hi.
Hello. Welcome to Under the Fringe. I'm Andy Yablonsky, joined by the fabulous Julie Babin.
Yay.
Hey, there she is. So in case you guys didn't know, we have a coaching platform, and we had our first group coaching yesterday, and it was fantastic. We were elated to be offering designers more information about business structures and marketing, niching. Like we talked a lot about different things. We asked our small group what they really needed from us. And so I'm talking about this now because that's definitely one of our highest passions is this podcast, and outreach is super, and we love it. But we really, really, really love connecting individually with people and in small groups. And the community aspect of what that brings is also magical. So
because truly everyone offers a slightly different type of design. And so it's really important to have space to really unpack that with them. I think that was one of my big takeaways is, we're all so different in the way that we offer design, and being together and being able to go through it and process things that we all share and feel and agree is a problem, and then very unique and specific things that are just you and whatever your story is. I thought that was really helpful.
I think so. One of the practices that I've been doing for a while now is understanding the power of witnessing. Meaning literally like having somebody hear and see your triumphs and your sorrows, both really equally powerful components to moving and processing through. Because sometimes if we have a triumph, we could get scared because it's new and big, and it could bring other things that maybe we feel like we're not ready for. And if we're in a sorrowful place, having support helps us grow and move and process through and out and then beyond. So super helpful.
And it's like, I always think that's one of the reasons why we're bringing this to the interior design space, is because a lot of these are success principles and sort of coaching principles. Like if we were professional athletes, going to the Super Bowl, we would be like, of course you have all this community and you have all this coaching and you're having mindset and you're of course doing your athleticism as well. And all the teams, we understand that they're doing that, but we're performing just the same as,
possibly at a more elite level. Let's face it.
Yeah, we're elite athletes. And so a lot of this is really taking tried and true success principles. Because I think in other businesses or other platforms, you might have a bigger group, bigger companies, teams, whatever. And for whatever reason, ours is just looked at a little bit differently. And so I'm really excited that we're bringing these topics to the surface.
And I just think because there's so many solo practitioners that we can get isolated very, very quickly. So I just wanted to bring that.
Then last week we talked about niching, which was a really cool episode. Go check it out if you haven't already. But it really might help you think about new ways of marketing and identifying what your brand is, which I always think, ultimately is going to help you become efficient.
Yep.
When you really sort of define the spaces that you're working in. And this is another sort of spin-off topic that we came up with. Obviously, a couple ideas came from our coaching sessions, which
Yep.
are super rich and inspiration as well. But a little bit dovetails off of that, which and maybe similar to how and then 2 episodes ago, or 2 or 3, we were talking about recession proofing our business. So this is sort of going along with those ideas where we really keep noticing the need to accessorize a room, let's say like a living room or whatever room, that we know that the rooms need a lot of accessories. So we started chatting. So we're calling this one Accessorize Your Way to New Profits.
Yep.
And I think what we want to talk about today is like, what if you packaged some offerings more as a package and less as like hours and service hours, hours for dollars, think of like, what could you start to package that could be a new offering for you? And I like to call it something that could be bread and butter, like income wise, because it could be a flat fee. You could get it right up front. And so that's how I'm looking at this conversation.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, there's a couple. So Etsy is a great marketplace that we see and use a lot. I use them all the time, actually. And one of the things I've noticed is there's always been pillow vendors that are on there, but they now have a pillow suite, right? You can buy a sectional suite and it has 5 pillows that designer has already coordinated, already done the sizing for you. The fabrics are done for you, inserts. You just have to pick feather or down alternative, and then they get shipped. And I think when I think about my design practice and how much time pillows take, I don't know that clients truly understand the actual cost of a pillow. I actually didn't understand the actual cost of a pillow until it was probably like year 2.
That's funny.
Because, at the end of the pillow design, you have a product that you're selling, but then you're also paying for the design fee. And it's not that the design fee wasn't like expressed upfront. You didn't, you chatted about it. But when you think about like these individual components, of which there are often, I don't know, like I just did 9 pillows for a family room the other day. And there were 5 different pillow types of the 9. And
yeah,
that's a lot. And each one of those pillows, right? There's like an hour to find the fabric. There's like another couple of hours of like fiddling around with which fabrics, right? Like an hour to find each fabric, but there were probably 40 fabrics that I had to go through. So there's the editing down, and then there's the detailing, and then figuring out the sizes, and then getting the client approval. I mean, it is
pricing.
Pillows, like I think that order was around $2,000. And then, but the actual cost of those pillows, hopefully they're not listening, is closer to 5, like at the end of the day. It's kind of crazy because of all the packing and the status and the thing. Like custom is expensive. I think
I think it's similar to what we say about like a small room is sort of the same concept as these small pillows. It still takes an exorbitant amount of energy to get something off the ground, whether it's just a pillow or an entire living room design. And I think what we're saying is create some cash flow by packaging some things, right? Like how could you cut down on the finishing touches and maybe you sell them to more people?
Well, I think that's it. We have to scale, right? So for years and years, I've been saying this, and this idea has literally never left my computer. So happily make it your own if it calls to you. But we design for other people all the time. Right? We have custom clients. We show options. Within those options, they pick one. And then there's 2 that never go anywhere. But why couldn't they go somewhere? So that would be one way of scaling your design, right? Like someone else has already paid for that design. They didn't take it, and it's your property. They don't own your design, you do. So you get to then take that and repackage it as an addition, right? Like if somebody was like, I love that color scheme. Yes, let's do those pillows, that drape, though, right? Those tables, like you've got a whole furniture suite and fabrics to boot, and you've already done all the pricing. Like, why shelve that? I get it. I'm busy too, so I fully understand. But if you're less busy, that might be something that could actually turn into a product. That then multiple people could purchase, and you then are making multiple amounts of money on that one design, which is awesome.
And kind of creating a sweet spot, or a bread and butter, I like to call it, like a good baseline of cash flow. But also the other thing is that those would allow you perhaps to have more photography, maybe have snapshots of those rooms that are done in that way. One of the reasons why we're talking about this too is because one thing I've always noticed is that designers are always so busy, and the clients always want everything faster. So, we clearly can't get everything done as fast as people would like. Right. And so that tells you, like, it would be a great idea to use your natural creativity to create packages that people can buy as is.
Yeah.
Because they're ready to buy. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about our industry, is that the clients they're ready.
So true. And I think, so you can take this idea and turn it into really any kind of scenario. So West Elm, CB2, they all have in-house designers, right? But if somebody's like, well, I am at a retail price point, but I don't want to look like a West Elm showroom, or I just got everything at Crate and Barrel. You come up with like, hey, here's my package, what's offered right now in the retail space, and that it's, again, done for you. I mean, people are savvy and whatnot, so I think you wouldn't be able to even have very many photos of those items, because they will Google image that and like know exactly what it is right away. But we were chatting the other day, and I recently came across this Etsy has designers on there who have put together paint packages. They're really beautiful paint palettes. They're $25, $30 for, a whole house paint color scheme. It tells you this would be the trim color, this is the ceiling color, and and so easy to use. You don't have to think about it. And when you click purchase, you get all the actual color names, right? And so somebody spent time doing that, probably because they love paint colors, and lo and behold, they now have something that can be sold over and over again. And so I don't think we have truly seen design marketed quite this way outside of a retail space. So it's taking custom design and actually marketing it as a product.
And it's like the mindset would be like, hey, designer, you can look at yourself, because you're creative and you can create anything. You could look at yourself as your own little store or showroom, and what does that showroom offer? So I think we're really challenging your brain here to get outside of, oh, I work 2 hours, and so I'm going to bill for those 2 hours. That's great. Obviously, that's the tried and true method to keep with that. But in addition to that is like really start to look at packaging your ideas. I mean, that's really what it is.
Absolutely. And so then the second avenue that we were talking about that felt really strong, that space is really more of accessories, because we all know people come to us with images from Pinterest and House Beautiful and all these different online spaces or shelter magazines.
I
just love this room. It's so beautiful. And it is. And part of what makes it beautiful are those finishing touches, right? It has window treatments and art and accessories and things that make it feel soulful and lived in and attended to. And so if you just have a sofa and a table and you don't have any books and you don't have any plants and you don't, like your house is furnished and it's functional, but it doesn't have the level of beauty that those magazines have. And part of why those Zines have that is a designer has come in and layered all of that in expertly, right?
And I think also those layers give the client and homeowners like a sense of individual style. I think a lot of times those accessories are where you can lean in to someone's interests, you know, their passions, their hobbies, their travels, like things that are unique to that person. I'll never forget, there was a little video on Instagram where they like took all the accessories away from a room, and so you saw it like, okay, it's a nice room, like a designer did it, you know, it had new tile and it was like a breakfast room or something, a table, you know, chairs, all that. It was new, nice, cool stuff, but no accessories. And then the video, they load the, you know, the branches and the this and the that one at a time. And then you look at it and you kind of go back and forth, and it's dramatic how much that layering process creates, even though it's like, you know, smaller fraction of the budget. But I think what's important too is, if as designers, you know, as hourly designers and really, you know, working from an hours based perspective, and we're budgeting and we're scheduling things with our clients, but if we're not training the client to understand that the accessory needs, you need to have a bucket of money for that stuff too. And then your projects, I know this has happened to me a lot. Your project kind of just never gets finished. And like, maybe I feel like I have like a good 5 or 6 projects that are just like, they're in the dust and I just never got to take pictures, like, oh, well. And it was a lot of the times it's just because of the accessories.
Yeah. And I think, you know, I myself have certainly done this, and I know a lot of designers do this in terms of like, we want the photo shoot, so we haul all the, I spent 3 days gathering up accessories and charging my credit card and taking them to the house, and the clients are like, oh, it looks so beautiful, and it does. And then they hear how much everything is and they're like, oh right? And so, and it's heartbreaking because then you have to pack all that stuff up and you're exhausted, right?
So
it's more tiring than like dragging the wagon through an elevator up 5 flights and then into a space, having to like unload everything, put it artfully arranged, right?
Then you have to be creative and use your brain and actually do your actual work.
Well, and you might have to get creative about how to hang something that might not be a permanent art piece. So there's like all these pieces that go into the photo shoot, right? You just want these effing pictures. And then the client is like, oh, it's so expensive. I'm sorry. I'll keep that vase. $35 vase from West Elm. Fantastic. I'll take
and they weren't, and I think the clients in those instances, they weren't primed.
They weren't. That was my bad. And so we were talking about this too. I think this is a super helpful nugget. So hopefully everyone else will find this. But the way that Julie and I have sort of circumnavigated this recently, you know, over the past few years, is we've added the accessories to the budget at the beginning. It's part of the whole budget, so that when somebody looks at the bottom line and they're prepping themselves, how much this is going to cost me, it's already in there. So it's not extra. And I mean, we have a lot of clients. I have a lot of clients that go over and above certain line items because they just fall in love with something, but they still recognize that like everything that's on the budget is important. And even though the accessorizing happens at the end, I think as long as they're prepared for some dollar amount, you know, still coming, that it is it's an easier sell because they like how it looks. They don't want you to take it away. They're just like exhausted by all the fees that they've currently spent, right? We're expensive. This is an expensive endeavor.
And I've heard of some real disaster and sad stories, and the designer loses and the client loses too, because you're right, they want the accessories. Like, I don't know anybody who doesn't want accessories. I feel like people always want more art and decoration and beauty. I mean, I think people genuinely love that stuff, and it's called like art de objet. Like, I think there's a real appreciation for these things. But I'll never forget, this was not one of my projects, but I heard about it It was kind of like a very high end residential project. And they didn't budget for the art in the beginning. And so now the house is done and the client wants art. Big surprise.
Yeah.
And so that design team went to all this length of, you know, figuring art and showing them and picking amazing things. And the client's like, great, oh my God, love it, you know. And then they still didn't have the pricing at that point, if you can believe it. And then they priced it after everyone's in love with everything. And the client just went, no, I don't want any of it. It's all too expensive. This is the end of the project. Like they just did not manage it. And this is like a very reputable design firm who did this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, you know, and I can understand why it's easy to get into that place. Like, oh, I'm just going to start picking all this art and stuff and now get excited about it. But you really, like Andy was saying, when you budget up front, even if they go above and beyond on like, well, this painting or this couple of paintings or these couple of art pieces, we're going above and beyond the budget that we all set from the beginning, but at least I know how much. Like it's pretty easy to manage at that point. Like, oh, I went past my $10,000 lump sum for the living room accessories.
Yeah.
So at least I can manage that in my mind. Like, and then I think the client sort of feels good about it at that point too, because you kind of feel like, oh, I you know, I went above and I got myself this really amazing piece of art. And I think all of those things kind of come together and allow the client to say yes to purchasing.
Yeah. I think that one, I just want to credit you, Julie, for actually adding that art and accessories budget to the budget that we both
yeah,
because I think it has been a game changer in terms of getting those things through to the end and actually being paid for them. And then you're also able to include your design time within that scope of work. Because that's the other piece, is that oftentimes when I'm doing it, when I was doing it for a photo shoot, you know, I'd be doing all the accessories sourcing. I don't have any pricing. I don't have any permission from the client. This is all really for my photo shoot. And then at the end of the day, what I really want is for them to buy something because I'm tired and I don't want to take anything home.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not a business model. It's more of like a please have mercy on me, I'm exhausted moment.
Yeah.
And so really putting yourself in the position of being able to price it out up front so that the client has clarity around what the budget is including. You have clarity yourself around what you are providing. And then let's say that, you know, we go back to this accessorizing your way to, so this is a great way to accessorize your way to profit. But there's a secondary piece to this where you could have like some pieces in your arsenal that are multiples, right? Like every project gets one of these because they're just a great piece to have. And we all know what that looks like. It, you know, Shay McGee, stuff that she's created, designed, uses in her own work all the time. And
there's ways to use things repetitively that doesn't come across that way.
Yes, you mix it up, but just knowing that you have like a good base of things, it's sort of like the mirepoix in a soup. Like you always have your celery, onions, and carrots, and then what else are you adding to create a different flavor profile? So you can cut down on your time sink there. And the other thing, oh gosh, it just like, it was right there and now it's gone.
Coming back.
It'll come back later, but we'll just move on.
Don't worry about it. Well, I think the other thing about reusing your go-to things, is you're the designer. Like you've vetted these things, whether it's coffee table books or trays or certain fabric, like you've vetted these things. And I also would argue that's part of your brand. Yeah. You know, because like I've spent this many hours figuring out this stuff. This is what I like. And so there's nothing wrong with using things again. Because the projects are still very unique. And individual. Like that, no project ever looks the same anyways. But people, that's always their main concern usually, is that. I think when you brand your look more, those are also hours that you can sort of leverage
Definitely.
Against your profit, like, or towards your profit, because if I'm leveraging like, oh, well, it should have taken me this amount of time, but because I know what I'm going to do with the sofa and the sofa fabric, like I just saved myself 4 hours.
Yeah. I was going to say, we have a friend, Julie's longtime friend, who sources tons of vintage. So if you're into having any kind of inventory, that's also a really great way. She just collects a lot of things and then they make their way back into projects, and that's her signature style, is reusing, you know, things from the past that have a really cool vibe. And
again, the word signature, that's so good. Like that's what a brand is.
Exactly. And then another tidbit that came up during our call that I wanted to bring into this conversation is that how do you get the client to, so one, you just said this, right? It's your brand, it's your look, you know what you like, you know what you want to bring, you're the designer. There's already an established trust between you and the client. So I think it's a little easier for you to be like, look, I'm going to go out, I'm going to get a bunch of stuff, I'm going to make this place beautiful, and you're going to love it. There's a confidence that I could bring to that conversation after working with somebody for 6 months, 9 months, whatever it is. And so absolutely, I think that there's a lot of people that would buy into and be grateful to have, you know, not any more decision fatigue, right? I don't have to think about it.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. People definitely have that.
There are also going to be things that people are like, oh, I don't like that. I don't want that in my house. And so coming up in the beginning of the accessories sourcing, you already have the budget conversation. So now you're into like the sourcing section, is I'm going to go out and, based on the budget that you've approved, bring back a bunch of accessories. I'm going to style the house. And then you are agreeing, per our contract, to keep 80% of what's or 80% of even the budget, right? I would, like, because I think things could vary, and sometimes people are more attached to how much something costs than they are to how it looks. So if you had $10,000 and every piece was $1,000, they may or may not want to keep anything because they're like, oh, everything's so expensive. If you have things that are $200 and then you have a couple of $1,000 items, or more, depending on if you're using original art and whatnot, then I think, you know, again, this is part of a larger conversation with the client in those instances, most likely, but having a variety of things at a variety of price points is going to allow the client to feel in choice. And I think that's, when you're hiring a custom designer, that's one of the main things that people really like. They do want most of the decisions taken out of their hands because they know they don't have the time or the energy to spend looking at everything, but they still want to feel like they've decided on something. And usually that thing is either a reflection of you because they've decided that your brand is what they want their home to be, or it's a reflection of them, right? So either way, you're still coming up with something that is, there's a decision point and they feel like they're still a part of the process, even though up to this point they've had more decisions to make. But that's just a really, I think, a great way of getting those accessories to live in the home. It is one of the hardest parts of the project.
And then they just think of it as this lump sum that they spent to accessorize the living room was, you know, 10 grand, 5 grand, whatever, 15, you know, depending on what kind of art they get. That's such a good point. I think that makes it so much easier, because a client managing like, oh, well, this vase was $150, but this thing over here was, you know, $1,000. Like, that's mentally exhausting, and it's equally as inefficient as someone saying, well, what's your hourly rate? And like how we always say, that's not a efficient conversation, because you don't know how many hours I need. You don't know that I need an assistant for whatever and all this stuff. And so it's the same thing as that. And so again, I think it's really like getting us to mentally think of ourselves as like I have a product to offer,
yes.
as opposed to a service. I mean, yes, of course, continue to offer your services, but this idea is, look, how can you look at yourself as the fact that you created a product?
Yes. Yeah. And I think
And
this is
that
one of the
costs like X amount. And I
Yep.
also think that they could pay you for that all upfront 100%.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then the other thing you were saying made me, oh, you were talking about if you work for someone, you know, for 6 months and then you have their trust and stuff.
Yep.
But I also would challenge people to use their social media as a way to create trust.
Sure.
Like, so I have worked with these people, they don't know me,
Yep.
but if I create my social media in a certain way, I could also start to, you know, cook in some levels of trust just from that.
Brand authenticity is really important.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's the part where, so one of our designers yesterday asked whether or not it was important for her to show her face in her social media.
Oh yeah. That was a good question. That was
Great
really
question.
good. Yeah, I'm glad we talked about that.
And we unequivocally said yes. And that's because, and that's also why we are on Zoom right now and have a YouTube channel, because it is it's pretty important for people. I think there's a lot of podcasts out there about interior design, and they might be saying the same things as us. And that's wonderful, because not everyone is going to connect with that person and not everyone is going to connect with us. So I am pro like all the information being out there, but then how do we, Julie and I, get our signal out to the right people? They're going to find us because, you know, of who we are. And so part of connecting with your audience is they want to know you. Like that was one thing I learned about my art. Not even that recently now, and I still struggle with, is people like my art, but it's more that they like who I am and they feel a connection to me, and then the art that gets the pieces sold. And so I think it's right. We are connected by stories, my story, your story. People want to hear our stories, and then they want to feel like we have something in common, or we don't. And then my story isn't going to reach a certain amount of people, and that's okay, because it's reaching another amount of people. So it's not about connecting with everyone. It's about connecting with the right ones. And that's, yeah. And so that's where your brand authenticity is really, really important, and why showing your face is really, really important.
And I love this. We can share this resource, and you guys can go research it on your own. But let's see, his name is Simon Sinek. And I think the name of the book is Start With Why. And he also has YouTube videos. You can find the same topic.
Yep.
You know, where he distills it down in a video.
Yeah.
I love the video clips. You'll find them on YouTube, and I've got the book as well. But I think that's a really, I can't recommend that enough.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I thought was very enlightening is, because you're thinking, oh, well, you know, this is why I do my business, and this is why, and you think this is why they like me, like why the people I do business with, why these people like me. And you think it's because it's you, but it's really just that you represent a certain set of beliefs that they also believe. And so you're just creating through your branding and social media and design, you're just creating a shared belief system that someone can come along and look and go, oh yeah, that's part of my belief system. I'm going to be part of this. And so I thought that was really interesting. Because it's easy to kind of get caught up in like, oh, well, they like me and it's me, you know, and it's like, it's actually something that you believe in that they also believe in too. And so when people get stuck on like, well, what's my branding and what should I do for my social media? Should I show my face and my picture? Should I do selfies and stuff like that? I think it's really important to go back and just think about what's the meaning behind why you're doing it.
Fair point.
And that will really pull you through. to have a deeper meaning. And I think that's like palpable. Like you can taste it when someone's doing that, and it's attractive. It's magnetic. It really, you kind of pull in and go, what?
100%
going on?
Well, and I think it's, again, so like we're accessorizing our way to profits. How do we accessorize? Again, it's who we are, right? So maybe the accessories that I'm choosing are only fair trade. And I want to make sure that the people that are making those accessories are paid well and they're compensated fairly for the wares that they are bringing to the world versus maybe stuff that is coming from China isn't what I want to put more of into the world. And I don't want to put it into my clients' houses. When I'm choosing bedding, I'm always advocating for organic materials versus not organic materials. It's things like that. And so again, that, those desires that are part of my own philosophies and principles are then reaching out to other people. And so I could have a bedding package that's all organic and free and put together. I mean, and especially right around now where the holidays are here, they are here, and people are like, oh my God, December, what is today, the 7th? It's December 7th. If guests coming, I don't have what I need. And suddenly like an ad pops up that has this gorgeous bedding all done for your guest room, and it will ship to you in 2 days. Right.
Yeah.
You have to be prepared for that, obviously. But I think that those kinds of emergencies are real for some people. And there is a desire to have spaces finished, right? Like that's what we're talking about. These finishing touches are what people crave, because oftentimes, again, like the budget, if you don't include in the budget, like then the spend usually goes over. And they're like, whoa, we got to put the brakes on. And then they never call back. They just live with bare bones house, and
they feel frustrated. I find that most clients, or one of the top problems that clients suffer, is they don't want to have people over to their house because for whatever reason it's not pulled together. So then they're not entertaining, they're not having a holiday party, they're not doing friends and family, whatever. And that's such a heavy weight to bear because you don't have a couple of accessories.
I mean, part of my why of what I do in my design business is I like creating spaces where people connect. It's what I love. I love hosting dinner parties. I imagine every time I'm creating a kitchen or working on a dining room that somebody is thinking about what they're going to cook for their people that they love, or how they're going to set their table. And like the joy and the richness, like those are the moments in life that I find the most important. Like they're the ones I remember the best. They're the ones that I linger in and around. And so I know that when a space isn't pulled together, it's heartbreaking to me. Like that what you just explained about clients not hosting things because they feel ashamed of their spaces, like brings me to tears, because
I know it's so sad.
And I've said this to clients too, and I truly mean it. Like, I know that when people come to someone's home, they're coming for the person, right? They're coming for the connection that you're providing. But I also want all of our people to feel like they're providing a connection that they're proud of. They want people to come in and feel loved. And some of that love is like, I fluffed the pillows, I got a new duvet, I changed the curtains, got a new light fixture, like whatever it is that brings someone joy and allows for that connection. And so these finishing touches are a big deal. I mean, it seems sometimes I'm like, oh, accessories, like it's kind of the like my stepchild in some ways, because it's an exhausting task. But the transformation that happens above and beyond just the tile and the countertops and the new furnishings and all the other things, it just feels so bare without accessories.
And I always think of accessorizing someone's house as similar to, how like certain celebrities, like they evolve their look, you know, like someone who's really famous, like maybe every 5 years, you notice they kind of evolve their look and they like do something different with their hair and kind of, and you obviously can tell that they worked with someone to evolve their look. They don't do it on their own, but they look amazing, but they're still the same person, but you're like, oh man, that's so cool. She evolved her look. And I always thought of that as the same thing as accessorizing. Like I want the clients, the homeowners to feel like they're putting on their best outfit is the way the house looks on them. And I always like to sort of push someone to their next evolved look. And you can really do that with accessories and really make people, I mean, to me, I just always think of making the homeowner shine brighter, you know, every time. Just it's all about them. And really, and I love accessorizing on that same note to encourage someone to host your guests and be hospitable in certain ways. Like I always, you know, thought of Martha Stewart, like, well, you know, you're supposed to give someone a drink right when they come in the front door. And like, what are all these things that just through recommending, like, get new glassware, get new dishes, get, you know, 2 different kinds of napkins. I do that a lot. And they're like, well, when should we use these napkins? I'm like, mix and match, you know, you can change the look. I usually do 2 or 3 different types of dishes. But it all is in the name of like encouraging them to like throw a party, like a small dinner party, a big dinner party, a party, like whatever, but like have people over, use your stuff. And to me, I mean, I just actually, accessories is one of my favorite things.
Tell it all. Yes, I saw you light right up. I mean, there's that palpable, the connector part, but as you were talking, it also occurred to me that it is, as you were, somebody changes their look, who's to say that you couldn't go back in the 2 to 3 years and restyle? That's another set of hours. That's another project right there. Redo the pillows, right? So you get a little facelift without, it's not a whole project, but it has a huge impact. So again, another way of accessorizing your way to profits is you come in, you look around, you maybe zhuzh things a little while you're in the space. And then, I mean, I think one of my projects, I thought I was done. And then I did a little bit of that. And she was like, we need more pillows, right? More pillows. Sure. Yes, we need more pillows. And the art's not done. Nope. The art's never done. They're art collectors. So that's never going to stop. And it's just an ongoing project. And so I think when we talk about
you can totally
client, I mean, there's just keeping in touch and kind of like, how are your bookshelves holding up? Can you send me a shelfie?
Yeah. Oh my God. I know I've seen my clients over the years and like so much of the time, the little objects will be in the exact same place that I left it on the shelves, you know, years later, because they don't know how to do it. But it still needs a refresh. And I actually just worked on, I call it a refresh. I've worked on pricing that out for one of the cafes. So it's more of a restaurant, but that we do. And she has, I don't know, 7 different locations. And so like there was a new one that just completed, but now we're going to go back to, you know, location 1, 2, and 3 and like tweak the paint color here and, you know, tweak this and then add this one thing. And then boom, it's going to look like, you know, super fresh and new. And I love that approach as well. And I actually think the clients appreciate it quite a bit.
I think they do. I mean, sometimes it's hard to know how hard you're living in a space until somebody comes in and just sort of like fluffs up your pillows or, you know, sort of style some things and you're like, oh, it's feeling a little tired in here. And so, but this is, you know, if you have a lifetime client, you have somebody that you've connected with and you have a great rapport with, I think reaching out to those people and just, you know, how are things looking and feeling? Do we need to do a little redistribution, right? Even just like taking a painting and putting it on a different wall will change how a space looks and feels. Or let's say you had a big painting and you're like, let's rotate the artwork around where maybe now we have a salon style hanging here for a little while. I think there's a lot of ways of refreshing the space that again just bring in more profit for you. So it's a profit for it's an ongoing. One of our contractors has a
like a
maintenance crew, and
that's such a good idea.
They just like it's at the end of the project, and they go, "Hey, would you like to sign on for this service? We will in 6 months come back and make sure that X, Y, and Z are still functioning the way that they're supposed to. We'll take care of blah, blah, blah." It's just like houses need maintenance. Our bodies need maintenance.
Everything does.
It's just sort of like the maintenance factor. So make sure that you're reaching out to your existing clients and ringing them up and just checking in and seeing how things are going, because sometimes they're too busy to call, but I don't think
they always are too busy to call.
They'll call when there's something
a lot of times. Yeah.
Like when there's something that's really like gone awry is when you get the phone call. But I think that they would still appreciate the service. So maybe consider doing some kind of maintenance, like, hey, I'll be back in a year, just to like come and refresh things and see, like sometimes people can't keep plants alive. And
I was just going to say, we did a plant package recently at one of the hotels, because that was a huge investment, all the potted plants that we created inside and outside. And so we just decided to have one of our junior staff members, that was one of their package deals, is that, we checked on it every 4 to 6 weeks, or, not super often. But I think that, like, again, thinking about your business as more than just a service, because now we're talking about a maintenance package. That's another package. And I remember thinking when I was much younger that any business that is maintenance is always going to be around, like a nail salon. People generally are not going to cut a manicure out of their budget. They're going to go ahead and get the manicure. Hair salons, like in the during the Great Depression, like people still bought red lipstick because I think that was like the highest selling item, or some statistic about red lipstick during the Great Depression. And I think because it made them feel better, put on the red lipstick, let's get out of my depression. But those are all maintenance things. And it's easy to not think about interior design as maintenance and just think, oh, I need a new project. But I was with my clients and they're in a temporary house and, getting closer to being able to move into the new house, but not yet. And anyway, they had some existing furniture, and this is a funny story. And the nightstands were like pushed away from the bed. So there's like a 12-inch gap between the bed and the nightstand. And I was saying to her, I was like, well, do you want me to move these nightstands for you? They're like really far away and like, AKA not functional at all.
Where do you put your water?
And she was like, oh yeah, well we have them like that because there was an electrical outlet there, and the cord for the charger, the phone or the computer charger, whatever charger it was. She just was like, well, I need that, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna buy you these little decorative outlets, and they sit on top of your nightstand. So you just plug in right there. She was like, oh, and it's just, it just doesn't dawn on them. All these little things that we can come in and because it was making the room look atrocious having the nightstand pushed aside.
That is, it's a solve for functionality, right? They didn't know that there was something that was more functional that was possible. So they pushed the nightstand away and then created this other problem. So I think, having those little walkthroughs and just sort of understanding like how can I help you? Like, I'm gonna help. And our maintenance is probably like, nails are every couple of weeks, haircuts are every couple of months. You know, we might be once a year kind of a thing, but I think it's still a great way of touching base and making sure that everything is still functioning the way that you wanted it to, and left it. And so it's just one more piece. And again, if you're so busy that you wouldn't like even dream of doing this, congratulations. But if there's something that you're like, oh, I need to drum up a little bit of business, I'm feeling a little light in my workload right now, like these are money makers, right? They may not be a ton of money, but you put enough of them together and they cobble together something that's pretty decent. So again, I'm not advocating that you spend all of your time turned into a maintenance worker, not at all.
Right.
But you know, how can you repackage some of your services so that they have more longevity and are still bringing in money? And then I think the other thing is that when you are top of mind, tip of tongue, you're also, oh, I meant to call you because we want to do this other office, and suddenly like your maintenance package just turned into an actual project.
Yeah, I was just going to say this whole conversation is touching on the other key component that we always talk about, which is relationships.
Yep.
And just by the sheer fact of spending time with clients, like you just said, that happens like 9 times out of 10. Oh, well, there's also this office over here that my company needs. Can you do it? And or like the outlet example with the nightstands, it's these little things that make them think you're like a genius. So, oh my god, there's an outlet I can put on the top of the table, you know. And then they just think, wow, they are so clever, I need to, you know, da 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 da. And it's these things that we just, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Like, yeah, of course, you know, you just get an outlet, it's really easy. But and they're, you know, they're thinking about something else, you know. But yeah, I love the idea of these relationships, because that's what happened to me recently. I 2 different examples, but one of them was like a project was complete and the client was going to walk through kind of like on their own, and I insisted, no, we have to be there when we walk with them. And we did. And because of that, because I just knew, they're like, oh, this looks great, but now we need a da 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 over there. Now we need a da 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 over there. Now we need it. And that was a whole other brand new order, like $100,000. I was very impressed with myself. And because we essentially, in like, you know, 20 minutes of walking around with them, we added up another, you know, 100 grand of merchandise. So that's spending time with people. And then another more recent thing was, you know, someone wanting to reuse a lot of their family's heirlooms, and just going around with them, looking at each of the heirloom and just like really looking at it and talking about, well, can we change it up and this and that. And it was a fun conversation, and they were very grateful and appreciative that we were spending time together. I also, it was sort of heartwarming because it was like, oh, these are my parents' things, like, can we reuse them? And so it was this sweet sort of like discussion about family, but ultimately so that we can reuse stuff for them. And then boom, huge furniture project out of that.
One of our designers got sick over the weekend, and she was like, I'm so bummed I didn't get to go to the holiday party, which for her clients, they often will sort of swivel her around, and she did this and she did that, and she's our great, right? So it's like a marketing opportunity for her. And I know it was a little heartbreaking, but even in this moment, I'm like, oh yeah, she should just still go to their house and hang out. And because it's a year later, and there's bound to be like a little touch up here or there. I mean, I think one of the things I've noticed about, like, once you ascend to a certain level of luxury and a standard, that you want to maintain that, right? So if something gets broken or damaged, or it just doesn't look as great as it could, it kind of makes everything else look a little worse, and it starts to bother you. And so that those, again, like, I'm not, you know, pushing somebody to spend money that they don't have. Our clients typically are very well off and have enough disposable income, and they're wise and they know how to spend money. And if they're not ready for a project, they're not going to have one. But being in the presence and, just sort of looking around and taking note and having a conversation is a great way of reminding the relationship, like, I'm here, I'm ready, I would love to continue working with you. We've had a
I
great
appreciate this reminder. I don't know if anyone else can relate to it, but I know for me personally, sometimes getting myself to be social and interact with people feels like, okay, I got to get myself to, because I'm really good at like being on my own, and I could very easily fall into, maybe introverted is a good word. And so the idea of having relationships, like I have to get myself to do it
Yep.
more consciously. And so this is a great reminder of like, oh gosh, like if it is hard for me, but if I do it, like I just filled my pipeline with all this stuff. And so there's my like payout, and so if anyone feels like a shy personality, it's good to remind yourself why these relationships are important, and they don't have to be overwhelming, even though it could feel overwhelming to go and do it sometimes. But it's very a big motivator for me when I look at it this way.
Totally. And I mean, I think, I hope I'm quoting this correctly, but I have read in more than one area of business, but 80% of your work comes from 20% of your clients.
Oh yeah, I've heard that.
So when you think of that, know that like there's 20% of your clients who are waiting to work with you, right?
Yeah.
And I do feel like it tends to circle back around. And again, these are big projects. People are investing a lot of money. So it's not like every year somebody's going to come back around, but be ready. People want to come back around.
Yeah.
They wanted to work with you the first time. They're going to want to work with you again. And it's only if you are super busy, and they may have like a timing thing that you may end up needing to refer them to someone else. But I think that most of our business will run its course with repeat clients.
Yeah.
But that's only if you're making an effort. And so
right.
I think that yeah, I think that that's one of the things that again, you're just accessorizing your way to profit. So if you're accessorizing your, maybe it's like your holiday card or I don't send holiday cards, but I like to send out New Year's cards because I love celebrating a new year, and everyone's holidays are so different. But
yeah.
So I celebrate the new year every year. And with gratitude, celebrate that I have wonderful clients. And that's just an easy way of acknowledging a year passing, letting them know that I loved working with them. And and sometimes I'll throw in like, and if you know anybody that needs a designer, here is a free consultation, right? If now I charge for consultation.
Yeah, that's cool.
So it's like a little gift. And if it's a repeat client, I don't charge for the consultation because I know that we would, enjoy working together again. But I do charge for new client consultation. So that's a great way if they know.
That's cool.
Here you go. Here's a free consultation. It's worth $500. How great.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Lots and lots of ways of reconnecting. And then when you're in that point of connection, how are you packaging yourself so that you continue to have a growth mindset and a growing business?
Yeah.
So
yeah, this is such a helpful conversation. I think that it'll really allow people to get, because again, if you're dealing with true wealth, you have like 7 streams of income.
Yep.
But the point being is that wealth and becoming rich and wealthy is going to be from different streams of income, and nobody's gotten rich from just charging for their hours. Even if you have a really high hourly rate, there is a limit there. And so I love that I think we gave like at least 10 different ideas for how to create different package.
Yeah. And I love all of them. And part of me is like, oh, I have a lot of things going on, so I'm not going to do any of those things right now. I'm going to get my assistant to do it.
It's an invigorating conversation. It makes you feel creative, and like those little fireworks are going off in your brain, like, oh, that little idea, I have my own idea. Like when you said send a New Year's card, it always makes me think of that way you're sort of at the top, like when we come out of the vacation mode, if you're the send a New Year's card person and everyone else just sent a Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever holiday card, then yours
my card's not lost in all those other ones. Exactly.
It's really like tip of tongue, top of mind. And so I love that idea as well.
Yeah. I usually send them out like on the 2nd because post isn't going through on the 1st and whatnot. I don't want it to get there too early. And so it really is just sort of a happy new year. Glad you're a part of my world. I'm so grateful that we connected. I hope you're still enjoying. If there's anything I can do, if you know anyone, here's a free consultation for a new client. Wishing you all the best in this new year.
Yeah. It's so cool. And it also just goes to show that no matter what time of year, I mean, right now we're going into the Christmas and Hanukkah season. Whenever you're listening to this episode, but it just goes to show we could have the same conversation about any time of the year, like any holiday or any season. We could sit here and there's always another way to market something.
Well, I've also done feel the love or feeling the love. So send out Valentine's Day cards to clients and just like, again, so grateful that we were able to connect. I hope you're loving your space on this Valentine's.
Cool. That's super cool. I love that.
And so it's obviously a platonic reach. I love my clients. I want them to feel thought about and know that I am grateful for our relationship, grateful for the time that we've spent. I hope that they are, so it's super easy. Like you can pick any holiday and make it as commercial as anyone else.
And the other one that we thought of the other day was like also using certain times of the year to remind them to buy outdoor furniture. Yes. So we were saying like February is a great time to like kind of check in with all your clients. And this could even be a social media push. It doesn't even have to be to people that are your clients. It could also just be a social media post about buying outdoor furniture and getting started in February, because when it's the end of May is when you're going to want it and you're going to want it bad. And then summer goes by fast.
And several things happen that I've seen over and over again. So one, you need time to design, and people don't think about that. Like, oh, isn't all the outdoor furniture just like readily available? Surprise, it's not.
Yeah.
And so educating our clients on lead times is important. So design time, lead time, and then installation time. And so, a good 14 to 16 weeks is not an insane idea to be able to have those furnishings going. I mean, I have to laugh because I got a call 2 weeks ago. I work for a senior living facility and they have a sister company in the area, and the sister company called and they were like, can you decorate our space for the holidays? And I was like, it literally like December 1st is when everything goes up, and it was the week before Thanksgiving. And I was like, no, I cannot.
Before Thanksgiving, no. And that would be the other reminder that you could create and send is like at the end of August, are you hosting Thanksgiving?
Do you need accessories?
About that now? Yeah.
You need extra dining chairs. Like there are a million reasons why you would want to connect with clients. And it is, I mean, again, like I think one of the conversations that we had yesterday, and this felt important to bring up, because as we're talking about sales and, bringing you into more profit, I'm not selling things for the sake of selling things. I'm not like, despite what I do for a living, an insane consumer of goods. And I'm a consumer of art supplies, but but I don't want goods out in the world just for the sake of goods, or like because I made a sale. I want these things for my clients because I think that they will improve their lives in some form or fashion, whether it's an aesthetic improvement or a function or both. And so, So I'm not asking a client to buy new outdoor furniture, but I mean, I'm working with a client right now who they thought they would use their outdoor space more. And because they don't have anything out there, they don't use it at all. She's like, so we're adding that to the scope.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm so glad you feel clear about that. It should be developed as another living room, right? Like your yard is another living space. We should treat it as such, have a budget for it, make sure that those pieces are getting included in the scope of work so that it can be just as lovely as the interior when we're finished with the remodel. So there's just all kinds of reasons that we would want to reach out to people. And again, it's not because there's like this great need for consumerism or I need to make a sale. My benefit is that I make a sale, but my impetus and my desire is that I'm helping a client, right? So I just I want to be more clear that like it is an authentic connection. It's not just like, what can I sell somebody today?
I always take, being a designer seriously. Like I always think of us as lifestyle people, like who are experts. We help people like have a great lifestyle. Like if you have an outdoor space and there's no furniture out there, you're not maximizing your potential because you just haven't put stuff out there. And as a designer, I think most of us, feel that we're not going to like the things that we recommend are because there's a strong belief for why this will improve your life. And I think most of us would also agree that your design will like there's a level of it being very classic and timeless, which is also like owning a really expensive designer handbag. Like I'm going to have a lot of these things for a long time. And so I always take all that stuff, like you were saying about buying, like I always take buying very seriously, like, but with that said, but people also need stuff. Like they need
stuff,
a good amount of things.
I mean, I'll also say that like, even with, we're talking about this accessorizing conversation, like I am a more minimal accessorizer. I don't have like the layers and layers and layers. I have an adequate amount of stuff that feels good to me. And I know that everyone's aesthetic is very different. Like some of our friends are maximalists and their style is so fun and so energizing for them. And so it's different for everyone. Like I remember there was a showcase room that was so clean and so beautiful. And it just had like this one plant on the table. And it was like, it was stunning in how simple it was.
Yeah.
So it is about having the relationship with the room, with the client, with the objects, and really understanding what it is you're wanting to create. And then also creating the relationship to be able to do that over and over again.
I love that.
I hope that we have provided, it feels like we provided multiple business ideas in this episode.
Yeah,
super excited.
Loaded with inspiration.
And that if you are a little slow this time of year, this tends to be kind of a little bit of a down moment. If you're not already installing or have scheduled installs for this month, you're probably not getting much more done this month. So this is a great time for literal hibernation. Like snuggle down, get into your cozies, start dreaming of your new year. Please join us for our Deck the Walls with Goals and Visions workshop we have coming up. That is on the 1st of January, actually. We decided
January 1st. Yeah, we thought it would be fun to spend a couple hours of the new holiday, new year together because, I mean, I know you could be doing stuff with your family and whatnot, but a lot of times it's like a quiet day. I think you said that, Andy. And it's kind of cool to do like a visioning workshop on a day where that the world is essentially closed down.
Yeah, it's for me,
sit there and focus on yourself.
It's like the perfect time for the reset. Like, what have I accomplished in the last year? I can go over my wins, reflect on what I'd like to do differently in the coming year. and then like make some audacious goals and really like put them to paper. And there's like two schools of thought around goals, and one is don't tell anyone what you're doing, just like quietly get it done. And if you are motivated by that, absolutely keep it to yourself. And if you are not motivated by that, like if you need the accountability of other people, come to our community with us, share your big dreams and visions, because we want to support that growth.
And I think there'll be a lot of momentum there, because you'll hear other people's goals. I think we'll relate to each other, like, oh, I can relate to her goal, actually. Yeah, I want that too. I think we'll also be including some exercises for breaking down like fear and mindset around having big goals. I know a lot of people don't like to set goals just because it freaks them out mentally. And so we'll also have some supportive exercises to help you emotionally through those tough spots. But I think, again, like when we're doing it together as a group, it's so comforting to just know, like, oh, hear about somebody else's mistake was made, and you might go, oh, okay.
Well, but also, how did they recover, right? I think that it's not necessarily like, oh, great, I fucked up too, right? Sometimes it's comforting, but I think more often than not, I fucked up too, and this is how I got myself out of that situation. Because I think the idea of a New Year's resolution, one, I hate the word resolution. Well, I hate it in that context of I have to commit to this thing. I have to get this thing done. It feels really heavy versus what lights me up? What do I want to move toward more? What do I want more of in my world? How can I make that happen with some actionable steps? Like all of that feels really exciting and also possible, because there's some small chunks of pieces that are helping me achieve the goal versus just having like this, like the audaciousness of the goal. My friend Laura said this to me yesterday. She's like, shoot for the moon and land on a star. And I was like, yes, that is true. A great way of thinking.
What I was thinking.
So bring your audacious goals, shoot for the moon, maybe land on the moon.
Yeah.
Also great.
Yeah. So January 1st, we're doing 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. This is the mini workshop we're talking about right now. So we would love for you to sign up. I think we'll end up having a link where you can submit your email.
That'll be on the website. We'll get that we'll get that up shortly. And it is free, so anyone can join. It'll be a Zoom meeting similar to this format, but we look forward to seeing all your lovely faces and getting to know more of our listeners and connecting with more people and helping you grow in the new year, because you growing helps us grow. We're in it to win it all together.
All right, I love it.
You're accessorizing your way to more profit right now in your mind. I'm going to go home and put some pen to paper and figure out what's next for you. And we look forward to hearing about it.
Amazing.
More soon. Bye.
Thanks for listening and being part of our community. Speaking of community, please head over to our website and sign up for podcast alerts and blog posts. And if you're looking for more resources to uplevel your business, create more time in your schedule, and improve your profits, we have a blueprint for your success that covers mindset, systems, business, teams, and tools. Think of us as your unaccredited university. Visit us at under-the-fringe.com and tune in next week for our next deep dive on creating more freedom and less struggle.